The story of the youth who went forth to learn what fear was fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm. Some stories lead us through darkness, not with fear, but with curiosity, a journey of courage, foolishness, and unexpected lessons. Hans, a boy who has never felt fear, sets out to discover what it means to shudder. From haunted castles to eerie spirits, nothing seems to frighten him. But in the end, fear finds him in the most surprising way. So let's hop up into it. Once upon a time, in a little village, there lived a boy named Hans. Now, Hans wasn't exactly smart. He wasn't exactly dumb either, just different. While other kids screamed at ghost stories, Hans just yawned. One evening, his father sighed. "Hans, you're hopeless. You don't know anything, not even fear." Hans scratched his head. "Fear? What's that?" His brother smirked. "You don't even know how to be scared." "Nope, how do I learn?" His brother laughed. "Oh, I know. Go spend 3 nights in the haunted castle. If that doesn't scare you, nothing will." "All right." And his father rolled his eyes. "Just try not to die." And off Hans went. Hans arrived at the castle, whistling a happy tune. As soon as he stepped in, the doors creaked shut behind him. A deep voice whispered, "Turn back now, mortal." Hans frowned. No thanks. I just got here." Then, from the shadows, came a parade of black cats and dogs with fiery eyes. They hissed, growled, and leaped at him. Hans blinked. "Oh, I get it. You guys are supposed to scare me." He patted a growling cat on the head. "Aw, you're adorable. Who's a spooky little kitty? You are." The animals, utterly confused, slunk away. The second night, things got even weirder. A severed half of a man fell down the chimney. Hans raised an eyebrow. "Hey, you okay up there?" The other half dropped right after. Hans clapped. "Oh, I get it. A magic trick. Nice one." Then, ghostly figures dragged out human skulls and started bowling. Hans immediately joined in. "Sweet, I call next round." The ghosts exchanged looks. You do know this is supposed to be terrifying, right?" Hans rolled a skull down the lane. "Strike." "Maybe you're supposed to be terrified," he said with a grin. On the final night, Hans met his toughest challenge yet, a monstrous old man with an iron beard and a voice like thunder. "I am the one who haunts this place," the old man bellowed. "Tremble before me." Hans tilted his head. "Okay, but why?" The old man hesitated. Because I'm scary?" "Are you, though?" Hans poked the beard. "Feels more like kitchenware than terror." Furious, the old man swung a giant club. Hans ducked, grabbed a chair, and smacked the monster right back. They wrestled, the castle shook, and finally, poof! The old man vanished. Hans dusted off his hands. That was easy." Just as Hans is dusting off his hands after defeating the monster, the castle, once dark and haunted, now stood eerily silent. No more ghosts, no more monsters, just him and the flickering torches. Suddenly, the heavy castle doors burst open. A man in a feathered hat and golden robe rushed in, panting heavily. His dramatic entrance was followed by a group of noblemen, and right in the middle of them, the king himself. "Hero, brave one, conqueror of fear," the messenger bellowed, nearly out of breath. Hans blinked. "Huh?" "You have done the impossible," the messenger continued. "By surviving 3 nights in this cursed castle, you have broken the ancient spell. And so, by royal decree, you are now the owner of this castle, the rightful heir to its vast treasures, and," he took a deep breath before announcing, "the future husband of the princess." Hans scratched his head. "Wait, what?" The king, an old man with a grand mustache and an even grander belly, stepped forward, beaming. Yes, a deal is a deal. You get the treasure, the castle, and my daughter's hand in marriage. Rejoice, my boy." Hans frowned. Do I have to marry her?" A sharp voice cut through the room. "Excuse me?" Hans turned to see the princess, standing with her arms crossed, an unimpressed look on her face. She raised an eyebrow. "You don't even know me, and you already want to back out?" Hans held up his hands. "No offense, but I just came here to learn what fear is. No one said anything about weddings." The princess sighed, rolling her eyes. "Fine. Then how about we start with date and see if I even like you?" Hans grinned. "Now that sounds like a fair deal." The king sighed in exasperation. "Fine. Date first, marriage later. Maybe." And just like that, Hans, who only wanted to know what fear was, accidentally became one of the richest men in the kingdom, with a castle, a treasure, and a princess who still wasn't sure if she liked him. But, of course, there was still one thing missing. "I still don't know what fear is," he complained to his wife-to-be. She had enough. That night, while Hans was sleeping soundly, she grabbed a bucket, filled it with ice-cold water, and threw in a handful of wriggling, slippery fish. Then, splash! Hans shot up, flailing, screaming like a banshee. "Ah! What is this horror?" The fish flopped around in his bed, water dripped from his nose, and he shivered violently. His wife burst into laughter. "There, now you know fear." Hans clutched his soaked blanket, eyes wide. I fought ghosts, I battled a monster, but this is true terror." And from that day on, Hans never bragged about being fearless again. He always checked the bed before sleeping. And so, after haunted castles, restless spirits, and unspeakable horrors, the one thing that finally made Hans shudder was a simple prank from his own wife. He had searched far and wide for fear, only to find it in the chill of an ice-cold bucket and the wriggle of tiny fish against his skin. That was the end of the tale of the boy who wished to know fear, only to learn that sometimes life has its own way of teaching lessons in the most unexpected ways.